I think that we should give it one more minute. It is 1 minute after the hour. We have 110 folks in here, but I am sure that we are going to have a few more people trickle in. So let's give it just another minute.
Yeah.
I just posted in the Discord channel where to find this, how to get here. And we will. Oh, we already have a question from Noor. All right. We have two questions from Noor, technically.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I missed that. Waffles or pancakes? I'm more of a waffles person. I just like those little squares you could put syrup in, and they just get held there, and like the geometry of it is just wonderful. Uh, and to the actual question, what led to great tables? Well, there was GT. So what led to that, I guess, by extension? It was an open project like a long time ago. I don't know. There was like this Google Doc that we had, and it just had a bunch of stuff we could work on. I looked through it and I was like, I saw this tables like task. It was like one line saying like make grammar of tables for R. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. And I'm not sure how I got the name GT, probably from grammar of tables, probably from good tables or great. I'm not even sure anymore. That was a long time ago. But yeah, basically it was just like a something someone wrote down. I just ran with it. Sometimes it happens that way, Libby. You see something, it's
I
pretty
remember
innocuous, and you just like do it, and it becomes a
as a
thing.
person who teaches other
Yeah,
people how to code, that's the number one question I get. New people are like, what does GT mean? I don't get it.
yeah. I
What
mean,
does GT mean? And I found myself like, oh, I don't actually know. Let me go Google.
I try to give it this air of mystery, but not really saying too much. I kind of want people to have their own interpretations, that sort of thing.
I
Um,
think I found explanations online in other
yeah,
places, quickly Googling, where I was like, other people sort of positing, like, I think it stands for grammar of
yeah.
tables,
That's
just
like
like I
fan
wrote
fiction,
down.
though, in some way. Like they're just hoping it's for grammar tables, and maybe it is. I don't even know myself.
Oh my
And
gosh, Rich not establishing canon here. Okay,
yeah, I
he
mean,
refuses.
it could be wherever you want it to be. And I do have a strong sort of like car motif going on in that package with the data sets. So it could just be
Hmm.
like a type of car, like a Grand Tourer.
You heard it here. Rich refusing to establish.
I refuse. I just want.
All right. Well, why don't we first take a moment to admire Jeff's guitar
That's amazing. Oh my God. Is
that
that
he
a
shared in the
okay?
channel?
Let me look at that. Is that a 4003? What is that? Okay, let's see here.
Let's
I
dissect
have to zoom
this.
in on the. I can't see model and the number.
Jeff, I really like your
And
guitar
you got an
strap. I
orange
think it's
amp.
cool.
Nice. I got one too in the corner. You see that? It's an orange crush. Yeah, it's really nice.
All right. Well, beyond the impromptu concerts and the sharing of bass guitars,
Yeah.
um,
Five string.
let's go on to Dami's question.
Yeah.
Dami says, I'm a bit embarrassed, but I wish I had more experience in contributing to open source projects or even making packages. Can you give me some tips?
Yeah. Okay. So I used to be like, well, okay. I didn't know what to do when I got an interest in like doing R stuff. Like, of course, I used it for like analysis a long time ago, and I'm like, maybe I should make packages. It seems like a good thing to do, and people are doing it. But well, how do I kind of break into that? Like, what do I even do? Um, it was tough. I mean, like I sort of fretted over that for like weeks, and eventually I just did something that was aligned to my work, like what I need to do anyways, but just sort of merge it into R, into like a package. Mike, oh my God, I'll get back to that. Uh, all these guitarists, oh my God, and basses. But it was really just like trying to find something that you really wanted to work on and like throwing yourself into it. And it didn't matter what it was. That was just, the first project could be anything. You're just kind of like learning. And other ideas are just like things you like in other packages, and you just kind of do it yourself. I mean, it's kind of like copying, but maybe it's recreating. But it's also like a good sort of like learning opportunity. It doesn't matter what you do initially, I think. And eventually you'll start finding stuff, I think, is like what I found. After just making a few packages, I found like, oh man, now I gotta make these packages because I just found stuff that was like, not to my liking. So then I just got more into it. So it's a it's a tough thing getting going. You just have to do anything that is vaguely going to keep your attention.
Do anything.
I think so. Yeah,
I
and
mean,
try to be
I
excited
think,
about it if it's exciting stuff.
yeah,
I don't know.
that's the thing is like, I would say don't limit yourself to something that you think is going to be valuable to other people, right? Like,
Exactly.
do the thing that's going to keep you engaged in doing it because that's going to give you the learning process. Like, I've done things and built things that nobody's going to look at. They don't care about them. It doesn't solve any problem for them, but it gave me something that I really wanted to do.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I wanted to ask you, Rich, what your origin story is. What's your Posit origin story? How did you end up here?
Yeah. So originally, I did nothing like what I'm doing now. It was just what I was doing
What
was
didn't
like
you do?
I was doing chemistry stuff, like air quality stuff. So I got a degree in chemistry,
Oh,
and then I sort of flipped over to like air quality consulting, and that really is just like working at a company doing like stuff that's vaguely science based, like air quality stuff. It's hard to explain. I even kind of forgot what it is at this point because it's been so long since I've done it. But that's what I did, and that's when I started doing R stuff. Like it was like right there. It's like these using Excel. It's like that's fine, but I didn't really want to do that because it was so slow and like um not reproducible in the least. So then I moved a bunch of stuff to like R packages. Well, first it was just like R scripts, and then like slowly migrate them into packages, and then that's where I kind of got the bug to just do the stuff like all the time. And then I just posted original packages that had less and less to do with that line of work, and yeah, eventually I had to like do that full time because I really wanted to. So and then I contacted Posit or back then our studio for job prospects, and it somehow worked out. I'm not sure
do you,
how, but it did.
do you miss chemistry?
I mean, a little bit, but not really. Like it was. I mean, it's great. I'll always love it, and I think it's super interesting. Topic discipline. Everything about it is great. Um, but I don't think I really do actually. I barely think about it. And when I do, I'm like, it's just like nostalgic sort of thing.
That's
Um,
probably a
but
good
I don't
thing.
regret doing it, obviously. Like it was, like everything I did was like totally no regrets. So like, yeah, totally fine.
Well, while we're still in the past,
Yeah.
rapid fire questions from Dami that are follow-ups to this. What was your first package that you developed? It wasn't GT, was it?
No, I think it was let me think here. I think it was like for an air quality model called High Split. It was either High Split or another one like CalPuff. These are like sort of like these models you have to use to sort of like gauge whether plumes of emitted hydrocarbons will affect another area far away or maybe it won't. And basically they require tons of inputs. You just run it through like this model, which is basically just an executable. You get some results. And basically what I did was like a sort of like a front end for that, basically just preparing inputs and shoving it into the model and getting useful outputs.
Awesome.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I think people can relate to that.
yeah, so it was
Um,
like work stuff essentially.
oh, Mike, no questions in Slido for this. We're asking in in Discord. If you have asked questions in Slido, they are for the virtual day speakers. I will have to go check them out and make sure that I can see them.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna scroll
okay.
back a bit to Mike Smith's post. He's got a bunch of like really cool bases there, a Lackland and like I think a six string, if I'm seeing correctly. I'm just trying to count. I think it is, yeah. I've got one myself, not that one. I've got
One,
like a
two, three.
Fender
I think there's
Affinity.
four there.
Yeah, yeah, some really good stuff here. Yeah, Mike, this is
What's
great.
that first one that's really long that looks like a dulcimer or something?
Yeah, what is that? I sort of recognize that. It does look like a dulcimer. Mike, can you elaborate?
Yeah, Mike, we need to know. This is now an
Oh,
AMA for
Lackland.
Mike K. Smith.
Five jazz clone, Conklin GT, seven string bass. Oh my God, that's what I thought. Okay, it looked like too many tuning machines to be just six string.
Well,
Okay,
there was a pretty long question from Jeff, if you want to scroll back up and read that,
yeah.
about the point blank package. Can you see that one?
Yes, I believe it's point blank 2020. Yes. Okay. So Jeff, I'm gonna read the question. I didn't quite know how to work with it in my workflow at the time, but a couple of years later, I had a chance to dive in and rethink things. I realized how great point blank is for data validation, and HTML report is a great little artifact to include in my data pins. Oh, pins, love it. What's next for point blank? Okay, so the R version is still being maintained, although I haven't got back to it recently, but my plan is to go back to that quite a bit and introduce a lot of stuff that I did in the Python version of Point Blank, which is what I've been doing for the last 6 months or so, maybe even a bit longer at this point. So okay, so split into two. I'm doing a bunch of R stuff, but I'm also doing way more Python stuff recently. So some of the things I've been doing is porting packages over from R to Python. Like GTs has become gray tables in Python, and point blank has become capitalized point blank in Python. But what I'm aiming to do after a nice round of Python stuff to establish sort of like a beachhead for myself in Python is to go back to the R stuff and include, do some well-needed maintenance and also to take some of the stuff that I did in the Python stuff in the Python versions of those packages and reintroduce those into the R packages. Because some good stuff there, and I worked on them more recently, so there's some new ideas and some other nice goodies in there. So what's nice next for Point Blank? I think it's that. Yeah, basically make reports which are scoped to individual steps. Because right now you can get a whole report of like how the validation went down. We don't get granular detail on like each and every step, which I think would be the next big thing. On top of fixing some bugs that cropped up in a year or two of not really being there.
Bugs, say it ain't
Ooh,
so. Everybody gets
yeah,
bugs, even Rich.
bugs happen. Yeah,
Well, there are a couple of questions that are in the Slido. I'm so sorry, everybody. I think I
oh,
confused
Slido.
you because the Slido link exists, but it's for the virtual day speakers. But that's okay. I can see them. One of them says, GT gets a lot of deserved love, but what's coming for Point Blank? We covered that one. I think that
Yeah.
that might have been Mike. Thanks, Mike. The other one is, how do you deal with pull requests created by other people that you didn't respond to initially?
Oh,
How do
yeah,
you
yeah.
deal with contributors, actually, is a
Yeah,
good
just generally
question.
and like leaving them for a while sometimes.
Well, I
I
mean,
think
how do you like, I guess the question is, how do you handle the project management side
yeah.
of being a maintainer for a package, whether it's R or
Yeah.
Python?
Yeah, and I'll frame it in terms of like PRs as well. I basically I want people to submit PRs, and because I may miss a lot of obvious things, like I mean, I try to be a user. I try to put my user hat on once in a while to sort of understand what people really need out of this thing I'm making. But it doesn't always work. It doesn't always take. So I welcome PRs for things people actually need. Like I need this, to do my work. So I love that stuff. And I'll take any PRs. And if they don't quite jive with the way the package is, I'll work with the PR contributor and, shape it to make it fit nicely with what is there or what it needs to be. Um, as for some things like PRs that sit for a while, if that is even haven't has even been brought up, I feel bad about that. But I do try to revisit those once in a while. And if it's been like years, and it's like that's a really bad on me sort of thing. But usually, for the most part, it doesn't get to that point. Usually, they may sit around for like I don't know, a month, maybe even less. Sometimes they're taken real fast. Um, but I at least try to talk to the people as they come in. Like this may be a while till we get to your PR. But
Yeah. I
generally, I
mean,
love PRs.
I think that it's important to talk about the process of what getting a PR might look like because
Yeah,
open source developers like Rich don't just work on one package. They work on all kinds of things.
yeah,
So this might be like a small portion of their week. And then you get a PR and you have to go through an entire review process. You have to do testing. You have to make sure that everything works. So sometimes those things might just sort of stack up in a backlog as not super mission critical things, but it doesn't mean that we don't love the PRs
yeah.
that are
No,
coming in.
it's totally the opposite. Yeah, we do love PRs coming in, and sometimes that's the case. Like I have to bounce around between a bunch of things, and sadly, some things become stagnant for like months, maybe even a year, maybe even longer. It's actually really sad that it has to be that way, but it's just like
But
the
we
nature
can't
of the
do
beast.
every single cool thing. I wish that we
Yeah,
could, but we would have to be several people at one time. Well,
yeah,
I
yeah,
saw that Ben has a question in the chat in Discord. If you wanted to take a look at that, it says, "Hey Rich, having developed similar functionality in R and Python packages, what functionality slash syntax do you wish existed in R or Python that is easier to write or read in the other language?" Do you ever
yeah.
do that where you're like, oh, I wish Python just did this thing like R, or oh, I wish R just did this thing like Python.
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of wish Python had like a pipe. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, this
Ooh, a
is not
native
like,
pipe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like just had it. And it's kind of funny because I try to bring up, I mean, I try to make things pipe-like by always having like, like method chaining, and you just return the same object as self. So with great tables, for instance, it's kind of like R-like in that you can sort of chain things, and you can, if you just, imagine it, pretend it has a pipe at the end of each line, but instead we have a dot at the beginning of each line. So we try to keep it close. 'Cause I think it's great, like making small changes that stack up to like a big change in the end. And it's not totally, unheard of to do it in Python. It's actually quite common, I would say, to do that. But I love that way of doing things. But I kind of wish there was just a pipe, to make it sort of like so it's like the accepted way for lots of things. Um,
Yeah.
so that's a good thing.
Gregory says, I think we all wish we had static typing
Yes.
because Jeff
Yes.
said, I wish Python had a pipe and I wish R had type hints.
Yes, exactly. That would be great. R having type hints would be great. I really was when I started doing Python again, I was like pleasantly surprised that we have all these things. The last time I used it before that was like 2.7, 2. Like that those kind of days, which didn't have that. And I came back to it. And it's like, oh my God, Python has all this stuff now, and it's wonderful. It's like, oh, this is a great language. I mean, I thought it was good before, but like, then I was like blown away because I've been away for a while. I haven't used 3 at all.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about open source in general is like if you came from the SaaS world, SaaS world especially, where like innovations take 10 years to make it to SaaS, you get those changes in R or
Yeah,
Python really, really quickly because people are developing for them. Um, and the fact that packages change so quickly is both the worst and the best thing about
yeah,
open source. All
exactly.
right. We had a
Ice cream.
quick
Ice cream.
rapid
I want to talk
fire.
about ice
What's the
cream.
ice
My
cream?
favorite ice cream flavor that was asked by John Cohen. I think it's like, I think it's either like strawberry and maybe, okay, this is gonna be like a little bit odd, banana. Because I began these like Malona bars for like a long time, and I stick to the banana flavor, and it seems really odd for like ice cream, but it just works. And it's not like, like it's more like a popsicle type
I
format,
mean,
but it's
banana
it's ice
split
cream,
is
right? That counts.
my favorite flavor. Actually, so there used to be a banana split flavor of ice cream from Bluebell. They don't make
Really?
anymore, but it was
Oh,
amazing. Yeah. All
yeah.
right. How about Bethany's question? Bethany says, as someone who's relatively new to the R space, around 2 years of experience, what would be your biggest word of advice to those just getting started, and how would you recommend getting your name out there slash networking in the Posit world?
Okay. Yeah, great. Because I was there too. Basically, yeah, just like can make your own open source package and just advertise it on like wherever you want, like Blue Sky, LinkedIn. That's typically where I go. And it could be it could be just anything. You just have to like I said before, it could be any project that is interesting to you to sustain your interest in that. Because I don't want to feel like drudgery. And then you can branch out to other things which you find later, which are, like maybe like a bit better than the original project. But you have to start somewhere, right? Um, so yeah, basically that's kind of it. Just like start on any project. It could be like a copy of another project. That's totally fine because you're just like learning and getting out there. And really, yeah, it's just it's tough. And it's been so long since I've been that in that position myself. But it was kind of like just do anything. That's what I did. And it
Well,
was
we've
it was
all
not
been
great what I did at
there.
the beginning. Yeah.
It was not great. Okay, I will say Rich is really great at connecting with the community, just putting himself out there and sharing what he's doing. And honestly, that's the scariest first step. Just share it. I have a lot of
It
people
is.
send me
It
stuff
was.
on LinkedIn where they're like, "Hey, can you share this or can you ask this to the community?" And I'm like, "No, you do that. That's how you get your footing and build your community of practice around you. You have to be the one who's willing to go ask people the questions and be interested in them and
Yeah.
share things." All right, let's move on, see how many questions we can stuff in here. It is 21 minutes after the hour. We are hanging out live with Rich until 45 minutes after the hour. And then the feed is going to go down, but Rich is going to hang out in the Discord and still be chatting.
I'll be around. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Someone asked a question, but I do not know what their name is. Their display name is El Linguista. El
Okay.
Linguista, if you would change your display name to your real name, that'd be great, so we know who you are. Um, how do you decide when to switch when new things become available in base R, like the new pipe and R strings? Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I still have a bunch of my gritter pipes everywhere in my R packages because I'm too afraid to switch over, but I know eventually maybe it's now's the time.
What? Rich, it's been years.
I know, but it's like I'm
Everyone roasts
supporting a bunch of
Rich for
old
not
versions
using
too.
the native pipe.
I think I know it's been years, but like, is that enough even? Um,
It's
I think maybe
still,
now's the time to like switch over. At
I
least my
feel,
examples for a lot of things are just like in McGregor. Totally fine. I mean, but also want to
yeah.
make sure that things work nicely in like the the R base pipe, basically. And so I won't know that until I move over all these docs and
That's what I
examples
was
to
thinking
that.
is like,
Yeah, it's
well,
like do
you want
these
everything
actually?
to play nice with the installations of R that people are putting on their machines, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think maybe I don't think about it too much based on my current track record. But
ChatGPT has definitely not moved over to the native pipe. Everything that comes out of ChatGPT or Claude, I think, as well is migrator pipes.
ChatGPT is just nostalgic for the old days.
We all are. We all miss our funny looking pipe. All right, we have more questions rolling in, so let's take a look at some of them. We had one from Dami that said, if you had all the time in the world, is there a niche package, like the silliest thing that you would work on?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. There's stuff like oh my God. So I've actually worked on a bunch of niche packages, which I haven't talked about much. One was like creating sort of like SVG graphics, like animated things. And I thought that was like so far outside of what I was normally doing that it felt like just like a passion project or a hobby project. And I sort of like stopped working on that, but like I want more of that in my life. I mean, I'm trying to do more little weird things.
Good.
Um, so
Everyone
I
should do more little weird things.
yeah, I mean like why not? And you learn a ton of stuff. Like another okay, more recent example in Python and getting out of R, sorry. But I've been doing this, I've been sort of like experimenting with like terminal-based things, like, interactive terminal applications. Sometimes call them TUIs or terminal UIs. And I've got this little thing which is kind of like a small package, which I never talk about because I don't think it's that great yet. And I haven't really, like tested it much bit yet. But it's called Sweet because I love the word and it's like a good exclamation. And basically just like a little Google Sheets in your terminal, which I'm not sure if that's ill-advised or if that's even good, but that's what it is. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to do that. Because imagine you just got like a little CSV, you just make some small edits, save it. You could do it inside there in your terminal if you like your terminal even.
Nice,
Um,
I like it. All right, great.
yeah, fun stuff.
Let's head back up to Gregory, who asked a question about sort of that R to Python transition thing. How is it being a developer straddling CRAN, PyPI, and CondaForge? I've seen interesting discourse when it comes to reverse dependencies in CRAN versus the free-for-all of PyPI and everyone else,
It is
which
a
is
free for
very
all.
true.
Yeah, you just submit it and like nobody even like gets to you.
Nobody
There's
stops
no
you.
person. You just do what you want. It's like
Yeah.
I mean, that's refreshing but also dangerous. I wonder if like
Mm.
packages because great tables which I work on in Python, it has dependencies like people depend on it, but I have no idea if my thing is if I make changes it's going to break their things. We don't even there's not even really a culture of like looking at reverse dependencies and like making sure like running tests. There's no I mean, as far as I can tell, you install the other package manually and you know you test yourself. But there's no way of doing it. So um, that's a little scary and not great because in R you have all that stuff. You have those guardrails and checks in place. Um, so actually that makes it easier because I don't have to worry too much about two crayons essentially and all the scrutiny that's involved in two different ecosystems, but also a little bit scary. And in terms of like getting back to R stuff generally, there's a few questions here. Like one by Robert, which says, Great Tables gain more love than GT on R. This is kind of similar because it's straddling the two different universes. Is the feature set meant to be a parity between the two implementations? I'm like, yes, I'm gunning towards that on the Python side. And also on the R side, I am putting a release of GT out like really soon. It was supposed to be like this week. So in between virtual conf, I will get that release out. It's got some really good stuff in it, by the way. GT for R, that is.
All right.
But yeah, it's
Well,
kind of like I just go between both worlds and I'm like, oh, I forgot about R. What is all this? No, it's not like that. I mean, it is for an instant. It's like, oh, all this stuff. But it's fun, actually. It's fun. It's like two different, like separate piles of like work, which I can just
all
sort of,
right.
different rooms, as it were.
Different compartments in your brain. I have a hard time with
Yeah.
that. I teach both
It's,
R and Python and switching between the two. I once had a whole semester where I taught both R and Python on Wednesdays. And
oh my
Wednesdays
God,
were
on the
like,
same day.
yeah, it was so hard for my brain to switch back and forth. Okay, well, we
Yeah.
gotta go back up because we've got like 5 questions in backlog that I would
Okay.
love to do and see how many we can get through here.
Yeah.
One is from Jeff Pinnell, which is, have you ever developed an internal project that you decided you would want to transition to become a public package? And if so, what did that process look like? Might be a good
Yeah.
question for the chat as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I've got a bunch of those. Like I brought like basically like my own projects to Posit or back then our studio that I've worked on myself, and I just said like this would be good for the company. Can I just switch it over to the org, like so it's not under my own ownership, but it's more like Posit has it now. And I've done that in the past quite a few times actually. That's what happened with Point Blank essentially, and what happened with Blastula as well. And I'm trying to think of others that there's been small packages that have I've gone through the same sort of process. Like I've
wait,
developed it in my own sort of account.
Rich, did you make Blastula?
Yeah, yeah, that
I
was
did
me.
not know that.
Yeah, I mean I haven't worked on it in a while, so like I feel like it's not I feel like I'm twice removed from it now or something.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
gosh.
I've worked on that. And we're trying to get that going for Python in the future. And someone else will
Oh
be working on that
wow.
initially.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
We love Blastula. Jorge
it's
said, tell
great.
us more about Blastula. Do you want to give a quick rundown on what it is?
Okay, yeah. So basically, what it is it's a way to get emails like with information through R out to people. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, like interesting stories about that. In the beginning, it was not easy to do that nicely um, because like email sending involved for things like MailR, which involved Java, which nobody likes maybe. And it didn't involve like a Go package, which had to be, like
Nobody likes.
included, like bundled. And now we can just do it through curl, which has nice email sending or email creation and sending abilities. So we just focus on the message body itself, which is not, a small thing, but basically, okay. So Blastula, imagine this: you have some analysis and you have some plots and maybe you have some tables, and you want to send a report through email. So you can do that through there. You just sort of create like a bit of text, which is the body. You can include through functions like I want this ggplot to be in there. I want this GT table to be in there. Throw some text in there. It can be dynamic because we're in a programming language, and then it just sends. As long as you have an SMTP server, or you could do it through a Connect, which is a really awesome way of doing it. We have sort of an API layer, and we just send it right through to Connect, and it just does it. And it's all scheduled.
Yeah, there's that. Like, if you are not using Posit professional products, Blastula is the way to go to email out the stuff that you are working on and want to share with people. If you do have access to Posit professional products and you have Posit Connect, there is a schedule in there where you can schedule emails from there.
Yeah,
All right,
that's great.
let's see how many more we can get in the last 15 minutes that we have here on air. Jorge, thanks for asking about Blastula. Um,
Yeah,
Real
you're
quick,
welcome.
Luke asked, cat person or dog person? Very important.
Oh, I'm in both worlds. I have a beagle, which was just scratching on the door a while back, so I was distracted. Maybe not, hopefully
Oh,
not visibly so, but like the dog doesn't always. Okay, so I got two cats, which I love. They're such cuties, and they've been around for a while. And I've always had cats, but more lately, the last 6 years, had a dog, that beagle, and it's such a cute dog. I wish I had a photo here of it. It doesn't always come in here. It just wants to be in the same like level with me sometimes,
yeah.
but not always want to see me. It's kind of weird. The way dogs are.
Okay, Rich, I'm giving you homework.
Yeah.
when we're done with this, go post pictures of your pets in the Posit
Yeah.
Conf Pets channel. I helped Rich open up
Yes.
all the channels so that he could see them. So now he's exposed to all of them. He's going to go find the pets channel.
Oh, you mean the Posit conf pets? Yes.
Posit. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm gonna get
Okay.
some photos in there of that
Wonderful.
of Molly.
Let's go to um let's see. Jeff had a question far, far up there. It
Yeah.
says, how do you decide between porting a package to the other language versus just using the other language's package via Reticulate or um, R2Py? Isn't it RPy2?
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. Well, that's a really good question. Like why bother porting sometimes when you can just use a really mature API and
Hmm.
just use it from the other language like easily through that interface layer. And I'm like, I think it's fun to actually port a package. So I'm against the other thing. I actually and 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 I kind of think maybe people there's some subset of people that don't want to do that like interfacing part using R2Py or the opposite and just want like like the native API to exist in some way.
Yeah.
And I feel like there could be so many more of these. Like I was just like looking the other day for some sort of like diagramming thing in Python, and I'm like, okay, this should be a snap, Python. Like, of course, it would have, like GraphViz, it would have D2, it would have Mermaid. It just all
Mermaid.
be
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it's ready to go. And it's like, no, there's not really a good Mermaid package that allows you just to create these SVG sort of like flow diagrams. And for GraphViz, you have to have like the GraphViz binary on your system, which is kind of like,
Hmm.
I mean, that's fine, but like it seems like there's ways to not have it exist like that. So I'm like, oh, man, these are like see, sometimes you just look around and you get package ideas from seeing some deficiencies, and sometimes comparison with R kind of makes it clear like there's this cool thing in R. It doesn't really exist in Python.
Yeah. Do you think
So
that that has to do with the priorities of the people who use the language, though? Because I think
yeah,
that maybe that, like when I talk to people who are more on the Python side, they're like, I don't do data viz. Why would I need to do data viz?
it might be that. Yeah, and like for instance with tables, I mean there's some table stuff in Python, but not nearly as much as R. Like when GT came
Right.
out in 2018, there was like 10, like a dozen table packages as well.
Right.
It was
And we've
like it
had
was like a
cable
crowded
for a long
field.
time.
Yeah, exactly. And like Python didn't have any of that stuff. Probably because it's not like really much of a sort of like a publishing culture. Like there's no R markdown. I mean, of course, there's notebooks, but like maybe they
Right. A
just
little
don't
bit
need
less
to.
academic where people are publishing more frequently. You're
Yeah,
right. There are so many table packages for R.
there's like
DC,
tons.
Flex
Yeah,
table, our hands-on table, which is amazing.
yeah. And they're all
Um,
doing great. Like they're being maintained, and
right.
they're all doing their things. And
All
like,
right. Well, we have got to get to more questions. And there is one, David had asked one that I think that Dami asked as well. So we're gonna skip that one, which was, is there a package you wish you could work on that you currently don't have time to? I guess that's a different one. Is
I
there something
mean,
you wish you could devote more time to?
yeah, there's stuff. I don't want to like get into too many new things because I'm already having trouble keeping it together with like the pile of packages I do have to maintain and the ones I'm doing in R and Python. So it's dangerous actually to get too far out there in the weeds with other things. But there's little itches I want to scratch with packages. Like I wouldn't mind doing like a workflow type package for Python, which I know is a super crowded field.
Workflow,
Uh,
like target style?
yeah, sort of like a light
Yeah.
targets. Yeah, you sort of
Targets
schedule
light.
things on your computer, and it's pretty simple. I think the idea is you try to go for simplicity and make it like light compared to all the other super mature and like really well developed, but like heavy frameworks that exist in Python. Um,
I get it.
yeah,
All right. There is a comment from Tan that's not a question, but it says, I feel like I'd want a linter to just automatically fix the McGritter pipe usage. That would be so complicated if you had a McGritter pipe that was like accessing a dot notation that wasn't going to work in the native pipe. Gosh, somebody get on that, but that sounds hard.
it sounds hard, and I don't envy that would do it. I guess because
Tan,
owing
you
to the hardness of
you
it, but
volunteered yourself. Okay. How about Linda's question? It says, I may have missed it, but I'm wondering what your next tasks will be, or what you assume they will be, and how you define them, i.e., how autonomous are you versus externally controlled?
yeah, I'm fair. Well, I'm fairly autonomous in some ways. In terms of the packages that I have, I want to keep maintaining them. Like there's still a lot of work to do with great tables. There's still quite a bit of work to do, quite a bit of work to do with GT. Like not just maintenance, but just making it better in lots of ways. And of course, like things like packages which I haven't touched in a while, they do have to be maintained, like Blastula, which is mine, and a bunch of other ones as well, like Point Blank for R. I still have to get back to that and fix tons and tons of stuff, which is really bad. Um,
It's not really bad. You made an amazing utility feature-rich thing that, like, just the reality that it has to be
yeah, well,
maintained.
okay, yeah, leaving stuff is fine, but I'm really thankful that people like Hannah Frick have been helping with all sorts of things like new documentation and all sorts of surfacing other issues.
Heck yeah, Hannah. I
And
think
June
Hannah's
Cho,
here.
who's been helping with a bunch of other things in the Point Blank R package. I hope they're here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think
Seriously.
that Hannah is here in the chat. Lots of
Yeah.
like round of applause for Hannah and all of
Yeah.
the people who contribute and maintain stuff and review PRs and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it really
Um,
helps because I feel totally bad. Like some packages that are really good that have been left for some time, and I mean that can't be good. So that's part of it. So like in terms of like new stuff, I got to be super careful. It's got to be well intentioned in terms of like it's got to align with stuff I'm already doing. To make it worthwhile, and it can't, lead to more sort of like attention scatter, which I already have a problem of.
Attention scatter is my
Yes.
middle name. All right, Tan says Fleur might be able to do it because it parses syntax trees. I feel like all
Oh,
of the stuff happening with Positron is really opening up more abilities to like do things with languages because we've now got like a tree setter for R and like
yeah.
that's its own whole topic. But yeah, Tan is on the right track here. Okay, we have a question from Gina. Gina is one of our speakers who's going to be speaking in just like an hour. So yay, Gina.
Oh,
It says, so GT question. Is there a grammar of tables reference that helped define what needed to happen in GT, like the grammar of graphics does for ggplot 2, or did you kind of derive the grammar yourself? What a great question.
yeah. It's partly I've sort of added things, but then okay, I have this thing I lean on quite a bit. It's like this census manual that was like I believe written in 1949, and there's luckily a scanned PDF online. If you look for like Department of the Census Guide to Tabular Presentation, just search that up. You'll be led to like a PDF link and it'll just open up. And it's like this huge book. It's like 200 pages or thereabouts. And it talks about tables in such like satisfying detail. Like what do you do with footnotes? Like there's a whole section on how do like how do you order footnotes? Where do you put the actual mark of the note? Formatting text, like formatting stuff on the left-hand side of the stub. A lot of stuff came from that. And because of such a good I mean, I've never seen such a compendium, like such a complete work that just talks about tables for so long. They're not just like, just like a set of guidelines. This is like a whole like work. And it was amazing. I wish I had it. I could just show it to you, but oh, you just okay, you got the link. That's the one right there. Yes.
I
Yeah,
put the
read
link in
that.
the chat.
Yeah.
I think that downloads
Thank
a
you so much.
PDF if you
That
click it though, so like be prepared to download
yeah.
something.
Yeah, instant PDF like right away. People get surprised, but whoever put that up is like a visionary. Like just keeps it up. Like this is an amazing work. I I, I load the day it may go down. Like that link just becomes like just dies because I think tables die with that because it's so much in
Oh,
there.
I
It's crazy.
I wish Joey Marshall was here because we could be like, yay, Joey, he's our census.gov
Yeah, I mean, okay, the
Data Science
census had it going
Hangout
back in the
person.
50s. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the census is full of wonderful people too. Like everybody that I've met who works at the census is just like the nicest person ever. Okay,
yeah,
let's move on to a Mike K. Smith question.
yeah.
Hey, Mike K. Smith's music is going to be what we're using for trivia tonight. So if you hear the dulcet tones of some amazing ambient music in the background for trivia, that's Mike. It says, what happened to the table renderer for other table packages? Was mooted years ago, but did it emerge? I don't know what
Yes,
this means.
yes. That actually may come back because it's a really good idea now more than ever that I'm working on gray tables in Python and also GT and R. We have like so basically what it is essentially you give it like a representation of a table, which is really close to HTML, and it just creates tables in other formats. It's kind of like a pandoc for tables, in a way. And that code is a bit stale. It's in TypeScript. I'm going to get back into that soon, I hope. Because essentially it's going to do double duty. It's going to do all the stuff for R, like GT and R, and also all the stuff for great tables in Python. Um, but yeah, that piece is very necessary. And maybe it was tried out too soon before it was like fully fleshed out. But I still think it's a fantastic idea and maybe a very necessary thing because like who wants to in different languages you know always you know have different renderers for a table like over and over again and just kind of do it once and call it from like this like one language. So that's the idea with that.
That is the
Uh,
idea. All right.
it will it will it will be a thing again.
Keep your eyes peeled for it.
Yeah.
All right. I am scrolling through. I'm scrolling through. I'm looking for questions. I don't think that I see any questions that we have missed. Um, Everybody let me know in the Discord chat if there is something that I have missed. If you asked a question and I missed it, put it back in.
Yeah.
Actually,
And Mike brings up an
Dami.
important point.
Oh, go ahead.
Um, is that yeah something maybe it was like too early like and I'm not sure it was not well received that very thing but it was just probably just too early for that idea I think. But the idea is great like it's nothing sometimes a great idea in the past could be a great idea like in the future or in the present.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's where we get the phrase before our time, right? Like
yeah.
he was before his time. People weren't ready for him yet. Dami had asked, like, way
Yeah,
up there. I
okay.
think you had mentioned in the beginning, and she said, "Can you explain what you mean by installing with your favorite tool?" You must have mentioned something about installing with your favorite tool.
Oh, what was
Is that,
that?
are we too far back to like remember the
I'm trying to remember
context
the
for that one?
context. Context is gone. Favorite tool is that
Oh,
R or
Dami says
Python?
no, that's someone else. Sorry,
Oh,
Dami.
okay.
Okay, well,
Totally did not
we
get that.
can move on from that unless the person uh comments and lets us know that that was them. Danny says maybe it was about Python installing since there's so many options, right? You've got UV, you've got pip, you've got so many options when it comes to installing in Python. I've
Yeah, for
did everybody
me,
switch to UV? Because I have.
I have as well, and I use it in my CI as well. And I use like all the UV, all the Astral stuff, like basically with like rough and UV and
I
anything on the
don't
future.
do I use
Just
rough?
go.
I guess I do. Is rough
Yeah,
what's like being used under the hood when I'm letting things get linted in the background
yeah.
for the
When you hit save,
positron?
you do like on save, yeah.
Yeah. Oh
It typically
man,
just like snaps in place like
if
quickly.
anyone's using positron and you don't have format on save turned on,
Yeah,
turn it on. Okay, I have format on save turned on, and then I have the auto save functionality set to anytime focus is taken out of the editor. So
yeah,
anytime I just like take my cursor out of the editor, maybe I put it in the console, maybe I click the file pane, my code goes bloop and fixes itself.
yeah. It's like instant,
It's
and that's the
magic. It's
whole. That's
so
why it's so good.
fast. Yes. And so it uses air and R and rough in Python, I believe, and it's just really good. Yeah. Shashir says format on save is too good not to be turned on. Do it, people, do it.
Yeah, we're spoiled these days when it comes to this stuff. Because I
Oh,
remember
we are.
before, like before rough, it was like a few seconds wait on a larger code base.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes you forget it's going to eventually change and then you're doing stuff. And it's like,
Focus
but now it's
change
just like
is
right away. It's like, whoa.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thomas says if you're not doing get plus autosave on focus change, you're doing it wrong. No arguments. I don't know about y'all, but I forget to save things. It's a chronic problem. I will everything will be untitled. All of my children are unnamed. It is
I have so
it's
many
a problem.
untitled in my
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
So I
It's,
really need the reminder to have things saved. And what happens is if I type something and I put my focus away and the code does not fix itself, I
yeah.
know I have not saved my file. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, it saves my butt all the time. All right, one last question. Sadie says, "Is there a positron thing you wish you learned this you learn? Oh, is there a positron thing you wish you learned talk this week? I love tricks tips. Oh, Sadie, there are positron demos. So in the channel that
Yes.
says Positron Lounge, there are going to be demos in the Learning Center if you're there in person, which is off the lounge, but they're going to be live streamed. So the Learning Center, I believe, is like the place where you'll go to watch those positron demo live streams. Okay, good question. I have to say thank you to Rich
Yeah. This
Thanks
was
for
great. I
everybody.
loved it.
This was so fun. Okay,
Yeah,
we are going to close the Zoom in just a minute and sort of get ready to transition to the next thing. Rich is going to hang out in the Discord server.
I'll be there. Yeah.
And thanks, Rich. Do you want to
Yeah.
say a goodbye to everybody?
Bye, everybody. Thanks for so many questions. I'm sorry I couldn't answer them all either, which,
You
I tried.
did.
I did?
You
Really?
literally did answer every single question. I have a
Damn.
whole document where I've been putting them in and highlighting them.
Okay, that's not bad,
We did
Rich.
it. Lots of thanks in the chat here. This was amazing.